How you doing, guys? This is Eric. I've got another survival movie to do a review on for you, and this is not necessarily a review of the movie as a movie. It's more about seeing what survival and prepping lessons can be taken and ideas can be gleaned from watching people in these scenarios. And yes, the scenarios aren't necessarily always realistic, but it can still teach you a lot about what possible things might happen, get your brain moving. It's just a good exercise, like I've said in videos before. If you do like to hear me actually talk about movies, I actually have a podcast with my girlfriend. The link is in the description below, where we actually do more of like typical movie reviews, take two movies that are similar theme and compare them to each other. It's called Faint Praise. Link is in the description. But this is about just going through the survival themed movie, finding things that we can, might be possibly real world situations. Think what I might have done, what you guys might do, things like that. If some characters do something good or bad, then we talk about that. Just like I've done in the other ones. As always, if you haven't watched the movie, I suggest you go watch it first. This one's called Here Alone, and it's on Netflix. If you have Netflix, it's free to watch. I suggest watching the movie first so you know more about what I'm talking about, and so it doesn't spoil it for you. It's not a bad movie. This one's decent. Fairly low budget, I think, but a decent kind of zombie apocalypse wilderness survival type movie. So check it out and then come back and watch this so there's no spoilers, because I will be talking about very specific things that happen in the movie. So if you haven't seen it before, it probably will ruin it for you. So go watch it. If you've already seen it or you come back, the movie kind of opens in the woods. There's a woman by herself in the woods, and it has it uses the technique of starting in the present and then doing flashbacks to tell how we've gotten to certain points. So she's out there by herself. You eventually find out that it's some sort of zombie apocalypse and that her family has died and she is left in the woods by herself. She eventually comes upon, or a group comes upon her, which is a guy and his stepdaughter. So then that causes, certain problems and certain things as they, start to get to know each other and things like that, but also causes issues. So just going through the beginning of the movie, there's a flashback to them getting ready for the zombie apocalypse, packing up. It's like, oh, we've got to pack up everything. And this may just be a movie device, but it shows them packing up a lot of clothing. If you're really doing a bug out scenario, you don't need that much clothing. It would be much better of an idea to pack only a couple pairs of clothing, save all your space for other gear, and then just grab a thing of laundry detergent. And if you have a waterproof bag, like I mentioned in my one video about what's missing from bug out bags, even garbage bags or totes, you can, or even just any bottle of water like a river, or body of water like a river or lake, you can use that detergent to wash your clothing. So you don't really need that much clothing. It's certainly better to have other things: food, water, weapons, medical supplies, tools, anything like that is better than just a little bit of extra clothing. So she's in the woods. It shows her camp set up. She's got a decent little camp. She's set up really close to the water, though, which I don't think is usually a good idea. It's good to be near water, obviously. Fresh water is super important, so being by a big lake is important. But you don't necessarily want to be right on the shore. It's easier to be seen from pretty much everywhere in the lake. If the level of the lake rises from a heavy rain or something like that, you might get washed out. You might interact more with animals and things like that, or other people that come to the water or floating around on just a boat or whatever. They'll immediately see you. So especially in a situation like this, which isn't just a wilderness survival situation, but also a zombie apocalypse where there's the zombies and potentially hostile people, you don't necessarily want to be just right on the water like that. So, and for, wind and things like that, and also your fire, if it's under the little bit of tree coverage, it'll help diffuse the smoke a little bit, things like that. So another thing they show in this movie, and this is something that people don't really think of until you've done a lot of camping and things like that, is that it always shows them with a typical kind of campfire. Pretty big fire with big nicely cut logs, just pretty much a roaring inferno. And that's not smart because, first of all, like I said, it could give away your position. But more importantly, it just takes a lot of wood. You don't need a huge fire to do most things. Like to cook, you don't need a big fire. Certainly not a huge fire like that. It's going to be a lot more difficult to get wood and everything that it is nowadays, chopping it up, things like that. Might not even be possible depending on what tools you have. So, like the old Indian saying goes, that the white man builds a big fire and sits back far away from it, and the Indian builds a little fire and sits close to it. So do that. If you're in a wilderness survival situation, build a little fire and just sit a lot closer to it. Put your pot a lot closer to it, whatever you need to do. It burns a lot less fuel, gives off a lot less smoke. There's no reason that you need a bigger fire unless you're trying to create a signal or something like that. The As we go through the movie, we find out eventually that her husband was sort of a woodsman. So he takes her out in the woods and he's showing her things about um, what berries to eat and not eat, and she's writing this stuff down, which is good. And it's interesting though because it shows her primary knife is like a chef's knife, like a big kitchen knife, which I think is obviously not great for a wilderness survival situation. But it's especially bizarre because if he was like an outdoors guy, even if he wasn't like a super woodsman, he would have some kind of knife that was better than that. Even if it was a folding knife or just a small fixed blade like a Mora or something like that. I can't imagine that it would be the type of guy who knew all the local plants and animals. He's talking about how to build a figure four deadfall trap and stuff like that. And he has just a kitchen knife. That doesn't make any sense to me. But who knows? They could have been rushed out, and maybe his gear was at his friend's house or something. So another reason to always be prepared. But that didn't make a lot of sense. But obviously, you want an actual outdoors knife. A kitchen knife like that, while sharp, they're not nearly as rugged, and metal's thin, things like that. It's not the best bet for a wilderness survival situation. So you want to definitely have a better knife, preferably a couple knives, if you know you're going to be in a situation like that. And it shows her trying to build a deadfall trap at one point, and she's using some cheese whiz that she has to like bait this trap that she's making out of a cooler. So first of all, she does not great at setting up the deadfall trap. She doesn't know. A figure four deadfall is actually very difficult to set up if you've never done it before. Even if you have done it before, it's fairly difficult. There's other methods you can use, like the Paiute, I think is how you say it, deadfall, which you can actually have a like a sort of a kit because you need a piece of string and things like that, which can be a little bit easier to set up. But all of them are very fickle and can be knocked over fairly easily. And if you're using something to trap an animal, you definitely want to make it fairly heavy. So if you had the top of or I'm sorry, the bottom part of the ice chest like she was using, even a squirrel might be able to just push its way out or dig a little bit and get out of that. So you want to make it a little bit more substantial than that. At least put a rock on it, but might as well make it a log or something that'll crush it. But she's baiting it with some cheese whiz in a can. And I was thinking as I was watching this movie, there's probably more calories in a tablespoon of cheese whiz than you'd actually get out of a squirrel net calories after the work it takes to process it and everything. Probably not literally, but the point being that I wouldn't waste food like that on a trap in a situation like that. I would try to bait with berries or maybe just a tiniest little smidgen. If you have things like rodents, rats, squirrels, other animals, they're going to be able to smell that stuff. You don't need a large amount. You could just do the tiniest little smear on there, and they're going to be able to eventually smell that. And the trap would work almost as well. And she doesn't end up catching them. She comes back, cheese is gone, and there's nothing under there. So that's exactly what happens. Now she is, like I said, following her husband's advice, and she's able to, and not too squeamish. She eats bugs. She eating like I think she's even picking berries out of like some deer scat and things like that. So that's a good thing on the character's part is that she's not squeamish. She's strong mentally and is able to do these things that are not easy. But she is, running low on food because it is difficult. No matter how experienced you are in a situation like that, it's not that easy to live off the land unless you've got a really solid setup going. She has a 22 rifle, but she only has like 6 or 7 shots left for by the time you see what's going on in the movie. So you don't necessarily want to use those in a situation like that to just shoot a squirrel or something like that because it's not worth it when you have potential hostile people and the zombies to worry about as well. One thing that she does that is really smart is she has her car that she's basically using to live out of, which is she covers it with mud and stuff to block the windows out so she can turn the lantern on inside and so it's more camouflaged. But that's pretty smart because they're waterproof, relatively soundproof. If the zombies were to find you, at least you would have a little bit of notice. They couldn't just bust in like they could if you were in a tent or something like that. So staying in the car, I think, is a fairly smart thing to do if you have that option in that situation. Obviously, you would be a little bit cramped for sleeping. I don't know if I'd be able to sleep in a car very well consistently, but it is a good shelter from the elements. The In one of the flashbacks, speaking of the car, it shows them driving along, and there's these people by the side of the road, and the wife really wants to stop and help them just because they have a kid, and the husband refuses to do it, which is smart. In a situation like that, you don't know what you're walking into. You have extremely limited resources, and just like in the movie, that she was like, "Oh, they have a kid, and he makes a point, we have a kid too, which is exactly the because they had an infant as well. So you can't like resource allocation is a zero sum game. Anything that you give or do for someone else or to someone else, that's taking away from your ability to give that to your family or to do that for your family, and it increases the risk. So in a situation like that, unless you just can't be worried about altruism if you're worried about surviving. That's not to say that you should never help anyone, but just like I said, realize that it's a zero sum game. There isn't just, oh, we can all have food. Doesn't work that way. One potentially bad thing that she does is it took me a while, not a while, but at least several minutes into the movie to find out that she even had the gun because she wasn't keeping it with her. And that's foolishness. I would, if I was in a zombie survival situation or pretty much any sort of serious shit at the fan situation, you would think that that gun was super glued to my hands. It would never, it would be like I was back in the army and I'd have to beat my face if that thing was ever found more than 2 feet from my body. It just would not happen. That is the one thing I can absolutely promise you. That there's no way I would, if I was in a situation where there was hostile people, hostile animals, hostile zombies, whatever, I would not let that thing out of my immediate reach. Whether that was, literally slung on me, leaned up against a tree right next to me while I'm taking a dump or something like that, but it would not be out of my immediate reach ever, period. One thing I noticed in one scene was her just standing out in the middle of a field. And fields are what you consider a danger area because you don't have any cover or concealment. You can be seen from far away, and if someone does see you, it takes a long time to get to the edge of the field. So if you're crossing a field, you should try to skirt on the wood line if you can, or at least stay low. And so that was a mistake. But later in the movie, she does a really good job with the linear danger area, as they call it, which is the road, of coming up to the road, making sure, staying low, making sure it's clear on both ways before crossing and things like that. So that's good to deal with. Or she had some decent movement displayed in the movie. So overall, the character is pretty capable. So that's good. There's this one part where she has to get resources from a house, and so she comes up with this scheme. Apparently, she's gone back there a couple times, but it's overrun with zombies, so she can never stay very long. And you don't actually encounter the zombies too often in this movie. It's more about her kind of surviving on her own in the woods. But the zombies are they're more dangerous than the Walking Dead zombies. They're kind of more like the 28 Days Later zombies, where they can smell you really easily. They're fairly fast, but they're not necessarily any harder to kill than like the Walking Dead, or they're not really any smarter either. They're just a little more ferocious and fast. So she goes to great lengths to like mask her scent, and she baits them with blood, which she gets from cutting her arm, which is not a smart idea. But if that's the only thing you can do in that situation, then that's what you have to do. But it's always bizarre to me where people cut themselves in the movies when you have to get blood for some reason. The one thing that really bugs me, and this happens all the time, is it shows them they always cut in the movies the pad of their thumb. That is literally the worst possible place I could think of, other than the tip of your index finger, to draw blood from. It's gonna get infected a lot more easily because you're gonna have to do things. It's gonna be more painful because they're using your hand. It's a terrible place to cut yourself. And you could do it on your arm. That's much less likely to get in the way. And in the movie, she does it from her shoulder, but she does a fairly big gash, which would be unnecessary. I would, and also your arms are more likely to get into things to get infected. I would do it somewhere that is mostly covered by clothing, maybe like my ass cheek or the side of my hip, something like that that's normally covered by my pants, maybe even my lower leg if I have pants, things like that. Somewhere that it's not likely to get in the way. Arm, if you have gear, backpack, a cut on your arm is always going to be, arms or hands especially, is always going to be a problem. So I would probably do maybe my thigh or, the edge of my hip or something like that. That's not going to get infected as easily. Because then later she has like a bucket of urine that she's collected, and it presumably would be old because it would take a while to fill up a bucket that she has to dump over herself to try and remove the scent when the zombies, she staged it just in case as a failsafe, the zombies are chasing her. And so if you have open wounds and you cover yourself with old urine, that's a recipe for huge infection and death. So I would probably try not to have to bleed too much. But that's just, like I said, characters don't necessarily always do things the smartest way, and that's why it's fun to watch these movies and see what you could do that's different. But dealing with the zombies, if you know they're going to chase you and they're dumb creatures, it would be fairly easy to set up some sort of trap, a pit, or just a simple pitfall. Dig a big pit, or any sort of massive deadfall. You get a big log, and then you get to rig it up so that it'll fall in the path and kill a bunch of zombies, and then just bait them into chasing you and run through all these various traps until they're finally all gone. That would be fairly easy, and then you'd only have to do that a couple times until they're all dead, and then you can go pillage the house. So that it doesn't. I think she has a little bit of struggling with the zombies and make it seem a little bit too difficult for how easy they should be to kill. But that always seems to be the case in zombie movies. In the house that she is raiding, she climbs in through a window, like she stands up a garbage can and climbs in through a window. And then when she's leaving, she climbs back out through the window instead of just opening the door. I mean, I get it if the house was locked, you get in through the window, but most houses have a front and a back door, so you could just walk out the door without having. And because she ends up knocking over the can, and that's what attracts some of the zombies. So they don't give you. There could certainly be a reason why you couldn't use the door, but they don't tell you if there is in the movie. So it seems stupid. That's pretty much it for the tips that I gleaned for the movie, with one particular point remaining, and this is probably the biggest spoiler. So if you haven't watched the movie yet, don't watch this part until you've seen it. But the man and the stepdaughter that she ends up meeting later, and they stay with her for a while, they're planning on like leaving together, and the daughter gets jealous and she tries to kill her. Like she leaves her for the knocks her out and leaves her for the zombies. She eventually escapes, but in the ensuing chaos, the man actually dies, and so they're left. The main woman and the stepdaughter are left alive at the end of the movie, and they're leaving together finally in the car with what little gas she has left. And I'm sorry, but they're in that sort of situation. Anyone who tries to kill myself or my family, that's it. You're done. There is no. I don't care what the situation is. That's it. It might not be today. It might not be tomorrow. But there's certainly not going to be just walking off into the sunset with me, and I'm taking you out. Period. Same thing with probably stealing from me in a situation like that. Inexcusable. You just can never trust that person again. And you have to deal with that. I don't think you can just be like, oh, the past is the past, or something like that. Let me know what you guys think about that and about the things that you've noticed in the movie. And thanks for watching, guys, and I'll talk to you later.